and welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. So happy to welcome Bud Kuiper and Michelle Beyer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
And the two of you are here because you are the ones behind the Share the Warmth, an old-fashioned family Christmas, which welcomes folks around a Christmas Eve table to celebrate Christmas, and these are people who would not have a way to eat otherwise. These are folks who don't have homes, and you are giving them this big hug on Christmas Eve, and I think that's the best way I can describe it. First of all, how did this idea get started? How long have you been doing this now?
This will be the fourth one. We started in, 4 years ago, with a box truck and just some nurses. And then it snowballed from there. Then Michelle had called me and was wanting me to jump on board with helping her with a Christmas feast. And I said, I can't do it. My hands are full. I do a Christmas Eve thing. I can't do it. And
I was like, no, I want Christmas Day. And then I gave in and I said, okay, Christmas Eve.
And Michelle, you thought a Christmas feast. Why? What brought this to mind for you?
Well, working in with ICANN housing, I know that I see a lot of it, but actually this goes back further than that. Doing my radio show here, there were so many of us that were homeless, and myself included, and the thought on Thanksgiving was I had so much food and no one to eat it, and I didn't have any other family members here. Everybody's in Jersey. I just had my kids. And so I'm thinking, all these people that don't have a place to go, how sad is that? And I remembered back to you.
What?
And before I went to rehab that Thanksgiving, I didn't have a place to go. My family's in Jersey. Gary was away, and that's where my kids were in Jersey as well. And I was all by myself, and I was technically homeless. And you invited me in to your family Thanksgiving.
Okay, I can't believe you're saying this.
With your mom and your sister and your children and your brother, who I loved to death.
Yeah.
And I was a stranger to all of them and your children, and I was meeting them for the first time. I mean, the only person I knew was you.
Well, they just love you, and my goodness, you know what? That just goes to show we have no idea. I had no idea you were going to say that just now. That was just a wonderful Thanksgiving. It's a great memory for us as well because, you're just a blast, and it was so much fun.
we don't know the seeds we plant when we plant them.
We don't. And
so I don't want anybody to be alone. No one should be alone. No one. It's the most depressing time of the year to be alone. You can handle it at other times.
Something else that you just said there that was really interesting to me is you talked about the fact that you were homeless. You also talked about the fact that there I was at Christmas with all this food. You're talking about two very different Christmases and what an amazing God we serve and how your life is flipped around. You want to touch on that a bit?
Wow, yeah. Back when I went to your family's Thanksgiving dinner, I was homeless because of my drinking and drugging, and I spent all my money on drugs and alcohol. I mean, I was making a pretty penny with child support and alimony. My ex-husband had a lot of money, and I spent it all on drinking, which ended up making me homeless, and my kids left. My sister took them to New Jersey, and so right after that Thanksgiving, I went into rehab because of my husband crying and saying, "Where's my Michelle?" So I went into rehab, and then, of course, I had to go to jail from there. So when I got out, I worked really hard on getting my life back together. And to be quite honest with you, I'll be 8 years sober in February.
Wow, congratulations.
And thank you. And it wasn't until I got the last job with ICANN Housing, which is, I've been there a little over a year, I started being able to support myself for the first time in my entire life.
Now you're happily married and serving the community and helping people that you're able to really empathize with because you can say to them, and I'm sure it shocks them, I've been where you are.
And that is, I work at ICANN Housing, which puts homeless back into homes, and I am a certified peer support specialist by Ohio, and I get to tell them, I was here. I was in your shoes, and they don't believe me because to look at me, they're like, yeah, right. And then when I tell them I went to jail too, they're like, wow. I'm like, and it's almost like they want me to prove it. And I'm like, well, there was beans at every meal. How about that one? They're like, okay.
I tell people all the time that I don't do what I do because I learned it in a textbook. I didn't go to
Yeah.
school for it.
Right.
I'm not a social worker by an educated point. I do it because I was there.
Right.
So
Bud, you as well. You have experienced this as well. What can you feel comfortable sharing with us?
it's an open book. My life's an open book. I try not to hide anything because then it looks like I'm hiding a lot of things. I was homeless once because I moved, once because of drugs, once because of alcohol. I made poor choices. The first time I was homeless I was just a young kid and moved, relocated without thinking about what things really cost. And then found myself living on the beach in Myrtle Beach underneath piers for a while until I got a break. And luckily I was only homeless for about a month that time. I really lucked out. All my homelessness bouts were only short periods of time. My longest homelessness bout personally was like 3 months. Some of these people have been out there for years. Mm-hmm. I can't fathom, and I could not even begin to fathom being homeless up north.
How old were you?
The first time I was 19 years old. That was when I relocated and became homeless. And then in Florida, just not too long ago, was the most recent time, and that was because of drugs. And that would have been about 7 years ago, so 34 years old.
That sounds incredibly dangerous. Mm-hmm. You know, how do you get yourself from there to where you are now, you know, working with Anchor House, founding Anchor House, and helping those that are now in that position?
Obviously, these are all my opinions. But first, you have to be the one ready to change. The homelessness, you may or may not be able to change yourself, but the causes of it, the drugs and alcohol, they had to go. Mm-hmm. That's what got me there. That's what kept me there. And had I continued to keep that path, I would have probably been on the streets for years, burning bridges. And then somebody has to be willing to take a chance on you once you get your head back in the game.
Yes.
My story's on the Anchor House Facebook page, where I talked about my real briefly about my time as homeless. Who gave me the break was a mom and pop barbecue restaurant guy. I had to ask to work for free for a day, and he let me work and slaved me for that day in that Florida sun. But and I did it happily, and he paid me at the end of the day and brought me back and over, and then I ended up moving into management at that restaurant. But
oh wow,
he had actually thrown my application away when he first seen me because of my appearance. I found this out later. But if he would not have taken that chance on me, who knows how long I would have been
Now,
out
you
there.
had said something, and not to make light of it, but you said you were living Virginia Beach?
Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle
Beach
Beach.
under board. I mean, that's my dream, to go live on
not
a beach.
under a bridge.
Oh, no, I would live under the boardwalk just to be on the beach.
But it's also illegal, too.
well.
Oh, so there's that.
Yeah, I had to crawl up underneath. And
So
I had
what
to-
on earth brought you to Ohio from
God.
the South? Because you said yourself you wouldn't want to be homeless in Ohio, not with
wouldn't.
our winters.
God gave me a very clear vision and a very clear plan of action with the Anchor House, and I wasn't real keen on coming back to Ohio. But I'm learning that living my life as a servant is so much more rewarding than trying to be a king. And I'm just trying to continue to be submissive and listening to where he sends me and what he wants me to do. I'd much rather be serving the homeless in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. But obviously the need's here, and the need is great.
Yes, it is.
How did your paths cross?
Doing my radio show when I was
Cool.
doing Addiction Voices of Hope here. I believe a friend of mine, Anthony, who sold my car to me, who's just an amazing young man himself, said, hey, I've got this friend, he's opening up this place, and so I called him or emailed him, and that's when we met, and I loved what they did. And so we became really good friends.
So there you are 4 years ago, and it's Christmas time, and Michelle decides, I'm going to throw a big banquet, a Christmas Eve dinner, and enlists Bud's help, and you have it outdoors on December 24th.
But it was amazing.
The funniest thing is Michelle here always dreams big, and it never works out. Well, let me just say, God had a plan for this.
Yes.
Because the weather was 70 degrees. The wind was just breeze. It was gorgeous. We had volunteers. We served 200 people. That means people donated all this turkeys and hams and everything else, desserts, and then worked it and carved it and did all this for us. And
where did this take place, this first one?
the Stark County Library out on Market
Wow.
in the parking lot.
Yes.
That was the first one with a meal,
Yes.
where we actually served some numbers. The first year we only served about 30 people, but we saved one life for the coat. It's
Right.
worth it.
Right.
We
Now,
did
yeah,
those
you've
at the
always
park.
been giving away outerwear, yes?
Yeah, well, just only 1 year longer than when Michelle came on board. The year one was at the Monument Park or McKinley Park or Waterworks, one of those parks here in Canton. Year two, Michelle came on board, and we still hadn't secured a location. We did it downtown, Canton Library. And it's such a beautiful day.
Oh,
It was
God,
amazing.
it was.
What a God thing. 70 degrees on December 24th in Canton, Ohio.
And having I don't even know if we were talking about it on my show. We may have, but just between our friends, donated that much food and worked that day.
And social media is a powerful thing, isn't it?
And to have all of that food your first year out and be that successful, that's absolutely God. There's no other explanation.
So the second year, what did you do?
The second year, my wonderful husband came aboard. And when he came aboard, we secured the Martin Center, which is downtown on 3rd Street in Canton. They have a great history themselves. I know he was on the show with me last time. And he said, yeah, let's do this. And Gary went and enlisted all these people to help with entertainment. We had singers, we had all different things. And Bud took care of all the clothes. Bud had more stuff than oh my gosh. It was even prom dresses. You know?
Wow.
And some of those were thanks to Martin Center. So we're going to minimize those a little bit this year.
Yeah. So, and last year we served over 700
Oh, my.
low-income homeless individuals. They received coats. They received a full dinner. And this was all because of last year, Bud and I worked the circuits as we're doing this year. And Gary had done some promos for us. And then that went off, and then we were in the newspaper, and then we just 700 people with food left over that we brought to the homeless shelter here in Canton.
I'm tell you, it was truly
that's
a
amazing.
loaves and fishes story because I walked. Last year, our event was from 1 to 4 or 1 to 3, something like that. And about halfway through the event, I stopped by the kitchen, and Michelle was freaking out. We don't have enough food. We're going to run out of food. I walked over. Gary said, same thing. We don't have enough food. We're going to run out of food. I don't know what happened besides God blessing that food and breaking bread.
Never nervous. Never, ever nervous about it.
And did people continue to arrive with food,
Yes,
or
all
the
day.
amount you had just
All
spread and
day.
spread and spread
And
both?
and the funny thing is, Susie, I remember last year, because you're on this committee with us.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, we dragged you. I remember you saying, it's a week before Christmas, and what do we have for food, and we're not going to have
that's
enough."
practical Susie.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not worried.
I know you were never.
I'm not, because this is God.
Yeah.
This is all Him.
Yeah.
You know, and this year it's a little bit more going to be more strenuous on me because I just had surgery,
Right.
a couple weeks ago.
And here you
so-
are still doing it. Well, this is why we're doing this, because somebody's listening to you right now saying, oh, I could help bake a turkey. You don't even have to buy the turkey.
Right.
The turkeys have been donated, but we do need cookie. Well, we do.
We need cookies.
But we
need
need
cookies.
turkey cookers.
Yes.
And we need cookies. And we
Yes.
need side dishes. We need cooks. And people who are willing to prepare a dish at home and deliver it to the Martin Center or have it delivered to the Martin Center on Christmas Eve day. So this is what we're going to be talking about a little bit more after these words. You're listening to Our Community.